In this short video, I want to take a look at VAT on property in Ireland. It's going to be an overview and it's just going to give you the essentials, but VAT on property is something that you could easily overlook, especially if you are buying a commercial premises. It's less likely to arise in relation to residential, although it can, but it certainly can arise and will arise in relation to commercial. So let's take a look and see. Generally then in property transactions, obviously you've got two broad categories. One is commercial, one is residential. Second-hand residential property transactions are generally exempt from VAT, but the first supply of new residential property is liable to VAT. Also, a residential property or a second-hand residential property that may give rise to a taxation of VAT situation would be if you're buying an apartment, for example, from a developer who had originally constructed the property and had claimed back VAT in the construction. In that situation, you need to be very careful about the tax treatment of the transaction, because if the developer, builder, decides to tax the transaction, he can do so. And there's tax advantages and disadvantages one way or the other, but you need to be careful as to whether you're buying the property including or excluding VAT. And obviously your own particular circumstances as to whether you're registered for VAT or not is a factor as well, but something you need to be careful of, even in relation to second-hand residential property. The Revenue Commissioner's website have a very good page for VAT on property transactions, and I will warn you that VAT on property can be a complex area. Obviously, buying property is an investment, it's an expensive investment, capital intensive investment. You do need to get legal advice, but you need to get taxation advice perhaps as well. Generally then in relation to commercial property, new building, VAT is chargeable at 13.5% on a new building. And a new building is defined as the first supply of a completed property within 5 years of completion, or the second and subsequent supply of a property if the supply is made within 5 years of completion and the building has been occupied for less than 2 years. This is where it gets a little bit hairy, a bit complicated. You do need advice, but probably the best you can take from this video is the need to get taxation advice if you're buying a commercial property, or if there's any issue about VAT in any property transaction. Commercial property then, second-hand buildings, properties developed after the 1st of July 2008 are exempt, but the vendor and purchaser can jointly opt to tax, and this may occur if it suits both parties, and if both parties are registered with VAT, it may well suit them to jointly opt to tax. If this option is not exercised, then the vendor or developer will face a clawback of a proportion of the VAT which is already claimed from revenue on the acquisition or redevelopment of the property. This clawback will be calculated on the VAT life of the property. This is the situation that I described to you at the beginning of this video, where the developer might build property, he will claim VAT on all of the inputs, and after a number of years will then be selling either 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 apartments. If that's the case, then he faces a clawback in respect of the VAT that he reclaimed at the outset, unless he jointly opts to tax the transaction. That's where it gets complicated, where it gets complex, and for the purchaser, he needs to be very aware of the possibility of VAT arising, and he needs to be clear as to the potential liability, and he needs to be clear as to whether he should be registered for VAT or not. Leasehold property, after the 1st of July 2008, all lettings are exempt from VAT. The landlord again, however, can elect to tax and charge VAT on the rent at 21%. If he does not opt to tax, he'll face a clawback based on the VAT he's already claimed on the development and or acquisition of the property. Again, this is why you should get taxation advice before entering into a lease, because the landlord may have to opt for commercial reasons to charge VAT. It won't make any difference to you provided you register for VAT. If you're not registered for VAT, it will make a big difference. If you are registered for VAT, clearly you can reclaim the VAT on the rent. Assignment of leasehold commercial, the assignment of surrender of a long lease will be charged with the VAT if the tenant who is the assignor was entitled to reclaim VAT on acquiring the original lease or the development of the property. Again, it gets a bit complex. My name is Gorry, I'm a solicitor in Enfield. I hope you find this video useful. If nothing else, it will flag up the possibility that there may be a complex, difficult VAT situation to consider when you're buying or selling property, especially a commercial property. If you find this video useful, if you do, you might give it a thumbs up down below.